Detroit is different. Yeah, Detroit is different. Words of the streets, stories in life we lead. Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Words of the streets, stories in life we lead. Yeah, Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Words of the streets, stories in life we lead. Detroit is different.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And I have in studio somebody that's been in studio before, but this is the first time, and it should have happened a while ago. Like, it's so many people that it's like, yo, you need to get on Detroit is Different, and it's all coming very soon. But we actually shared the studio with Danny Glover, and like the real Danny Glover, not like Danny Glover, like our cousin or something that's Daniel and has the last name Glover. No, like, you know, Lethal Weapon, Color Purple. There's so much more community-based stuff, but so many other things. Riverwise, if you don't know about Riverwise is a publication that is really anchored around Detroit, but in artistry and activism and a lot of other things, and revolution and so much more. Megan Douglas, how are you doing today?
What up, though? I'm doing good.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Khary.
Thank you. Last time I was like being interviewed for one of the things because Dr. Douglas is coming very soon.
Oh, gosh. Fingers crossed.
Yes, it's coming. The dissertation and everything. And I was sitting in here like, oh, man, these are some questions that I got to reverse soon. And that's where we at.
Well, let's go.
All right. So we always start these with Detroit journeys. And I know a little bit about your story. So let's talk about your family and getting up this way. Where the roots come from.
Okay.
How does that connect?
I mean, I kind of much in the same way I think that any like Black family made its way north. My mom is Jamaican, and my dad is from North Carolina.
Okay.
He was born in Greensboro, but my family is now in Fayetteville. And my mom came up from Jamaica to go to college. And she was at U of M, and my dad was getting his second degree at Michigan State, and they met at a Jimmy Cliff concert.
Wow. And talk about like so Jamaican. So for anybody that doesn't know that doesn't know Jimmy Cliff, I gotta like do that classic. Detroit, you always talking so much. Jimmy Cliff is...
he's kind of like the Ron Isley. Like, if you know about like who, you know, like he's art, fundamental.
A movie made, so kind of like a little bit of like I was gonna say like a Prince, like Purple Rain-ish, Because of the Harder They Fall, and so a Jamaican folklore, and like it's a real movie, like not like you know, not saying that movies aren't real, but like back then, if you go in the arc of Jamaican film, it's the songs and like a Ron Isley, a lot of love songs and so many other things. So at a Jimmy Cliff concert.
Yeah.
Okay, so clearly
he liked it. And so they stayed, you know. I was like, I got two parents, one from the global south and one from the south, but they decided that the frozen tundra was going to be a good place for us to settle down. So I was born in Grand Rapids, but I grew up in the Ipsy
area,
Ann Arbor area, like kind of always on the line, like mostly in Ipsy, and then when we were in Ann Arbor, kind of like right on the line with Ipsy. So most of my like friends and homies, I went to high school in the Ann Arbor Ipsy area and in Jamaica, and then I got cousins here in Detroit. So like growing up, like we were, you know, back and forth to Detroit. Because, you know, when you're like Black in Michigan,
you got to connect to the D.
it's like Ipsy, Flint, Saginaw, Detroit.
Yep.
So yeah, like then when I came back, I lived in Jamaica for about 8-9 years after.
Okay. And I've heard some of those stories, but before we even get there, like growing up in Washtenaw, Yipsy, what was that like? What era are we talking? What was the culture like there? Because for a lot of people that aren't from here, and it's a lot of people not from here that listen, so like Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, they're, depending upon how fast you drive, it can be like 20 minutes away or 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be about, I think, 30, 35 minutes away. But what was the feel? And also, Ypsilanti isn't like, it's next to Ann Arbor, but it's not like so next to Ann Arbor where it's like, like right there per se, but it's right there.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was that era you coming up in? What do you remember?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was growing up in Ipsy throughout the 80s.
Mhm.
I went to high school in the 90s, graduated in 99.
Mhm.
And that was like kind of those years where, because throughout the 80s, a lot of people lost their mind with all the like economic, like, we don't care, free reign, deregulation, like party. And then by the time I was coming up in the 90s, because I have an older sister, who was like quite militant, and so she was like, that's when like the cats were on like all her homies would be on the street selling bean pies with like
Mhm.
but it was a very small cohort of us, like conscious Black people in Ipsy, Ann Arbor area.
And I ask this because oftentimes, especially even to America itself, Ann Arbor is seen as a very forward-thinking, progressive space. The college town of Ypsi, and I'm just telling you, this is the perception of it. And then you meet Black folks from Ypsi, and it's like, nah, that really wasn't the feel in Ann Arbor. And they just have a different take of it. And that's why I ask, because
Well, here's what I'll say. I like had a wonderful experience growing up in Ann Arbor and Ipsy because of some of the diversity that existed. And we often joke that like they must have been doing like tests to see what it was like to take little poor Black kids and send them, because like when I was growing up, we were getting bussed in from Ipsy to go to school with like the rich white kids, like, and I remember the first time I went to one of my friend's house in like the 3rd grade, and it was like a 4-story mansion, like down by U of M. And I'm like, oh man, this is how y'all living. Like, it was mind blowing. And like, so like, there's that tension between like, they were using us as fodder for diversity for the white kids. But also, like, I know a lot of like our experiences, because like really important in this society is to be able to code switch. And so like being adjacent to all of that, we also got a lot of ability. Like a lot of my friends have the ability to kind of like move through multiple worlds because of that. Now, on the other hand, almost like there's only a handful of my friends from that time who are Black and brown who have actually been able to buy homes in that area.
Wow.
So a lot of my friends are priced out of being living in the town that they're from. And, like we couldn't go out on any night and not get pulled over.
Wow.
Like there was always something. Like we just had a target on our back because like they're like, yeah, like we were the ones to pick on. So, that like it's a very strange thing to be from a town that has this reputation for being like so liberal and so compassionate and having all of these programs, and they do. But also there's always, I mean, and you scratch the surface in anything in the United States, and there's like misogyny and racism and xenophobia, and like if you dig too, like, no, you don't even have to dig hard. If you just dig a little bit, you're like, oh, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. So, like, I appreciate some of the experiences I had, and I like growing up there. But for sure, when I came back after having like left for a while, I was like, I'm not going back to that area at all. Like, so I made my home in Detroit, and I think that's like, for in terms of like growing up and being like, where am I going to be and what I'm going to do, we always looked to Detroit. Like that's where we were hanging out on the weekends. There was nothing for us to like do. There was no like, anytime it was a Black space, they were always shutting it down or whatever. So like hanging out in Detroit was where we always looked to. So for me, especially now with the like ramping up of the gentrification and like, and not just gentrification, but like kind of like a reversal too. Like I don't see the things that I grew up with like being reflected in that area anymore. We used to have a lot of cool like independent shops and art shows and like all that kind of stuff and all that excuse my French has been like bought out
Speak
and
freely.
it's sold out and it's just kind of uh like facsimile of what it used to be,
Hmm.
you know? So yeah, I was like, I need to not be
In that space.
in there anymore. But like I said, I have a lot of homies there who are doing a lot of good work,
Hmm.
who do amazing things for the community throughout Ann Arbor and Ipsy. Um, but they've had to navigate a lot of like racism and they've had to navigate um like watching people discount them because they don't look or talk a certain way, even though they've been the most effectual at the kind of community program that they're running. So there's always that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now I guess high school 99, I also have to like highlight what this is, but even before we go there, mom comes to U of M
Hmm.
for school, dad and everything, Michigan State. What are they doing? How do they take to the community there in Ypsi and Ann Arbor? How do they adjust during that time?
Um, well, my mom, so there's like kind of in the way that people who are diasporic do, they tend to like form their own little communities.
Mhm.
So I got like a bunch of aunties and uncles who are, but from various islands.
Okay.
So from my mom's side, like I got aunties who are Trini, Bajan, Guyanese, and actually like one of her best friends is Ghanaian.
Mm.
So I kind of grew up around a diasporic community because we didn't have her family here,
Mhm.
right? So she does have family in the States, but most of them are up in like Toronto or Florida or New York. Michigan isn't really a stop on the
On the
like
Jamaican
the Caribbean
plane. Yeah,
train
yeah,
as
yeah,
much
yeah.
as other places.
Mhm.
In terms of my father, he was like very rooted in community work. So he worked actually in juvenile correction for years.
Mm.
He was a social worker
Wow.
at Maxie.
Mm.
He's actually ran a girls' house here in Detroit, and I've been trying to find any information about it, but I can't. It was called Defer House, and it was for girls. So that was my first taste of like bad girls, like is him running that place, and then he worked at Maxie for years. And his whole thing is he was like an old hippie, right? And his whole thing was like trying to be an interventionist in the incarceral system. And so his story is really, because he was like a big-hearted character, like, and that he always used to say like the jailer becomes the jailed, and he just saw so much trauma all the time. But he was a really good mentor to kids, and then he actually has a day named for him in Michigan.
Wow.
He ran while he was alive the largest youth golf tour.
Mm.
And so he would take like kids, like disadvantaged kids, teach them how to play golf. Some of them became like state world champs.
Okay.
And so actually, Spicy Take, some of the golf programs that exist around here were born out of the work that my father did.
Like midnight golf and programs such.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that was my dad. He's passed away now for about
Rest in
11
peace.
years.
Rest in
Yeah. We
peace.
miss Charlie. But yeah, so that was kind of their journey,
So now I got to go into just that time. You graduating 99, the only thing that it seemed like prevalent in people's mind. And I know if you're younger, you're like, what is going on? It's like, the world's going to crash because of Y2K and all of this stuff. Where was your headset at graduating 99? What were you thinking? You're in technically like connected to two large college towns in the city of, or well, in the state of Michigan, I should say. What were you thinking as far as after high school?
Man, I don't know. I've always been the kind of person who, so I often say like, because people like want to know what my like trajectory was towards social justice or like, how did I become this person? And like in my family, there's never like really been a distinction between like your political activism, your like social beliefs, and like what like how you're living your life.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter if I'm cleaning toilets, I'm still an activist.
So I want you to get deeper about that, because you already said that your sister was older than you and very revolutionary.
Uh-huh.
You spoke about just your mother kind of connecting to the diaspora, where she was, and your father, as you said, like with the work he did. So you're witnessing this growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah, my uncle, actually, my mom, so the reason she ended up in Ann Arbor is because my uncle was at U of M from Jamaica getting his PhD in political science.
Okay.
And so he gets that PhD and he's here. And so she actually always said she was on her way to New York to go be an actress and then got caught in Ann Arbor. And she's like, I should have kept going to New York. I would have been famous. But she stayed here. He got his PhD in political science. This would have been in the late 60s. And it was right around, not too long after Jamaica had earned independence. So then he went and he was teaching at Howard for a little while. And then the leaders of the island actually called him back to come help form the new government.
Wow.
So we just grew up very political, right? And on both sides, like both of my family from the United States and from Jamaica were very rooted in community. So like my granddaddy was one of the first black dentists, the first black dentist in Fayetteville. And like everybody would tell stories that he would like fix people's teeth for like a bushel of corn, like a thing of corn, like bring him something, and he would like take care of people. My grandma was a teacher in the community down there, and then I have a very political family in
Jamaica as well.
So, like, I got my degree in political science at the University of Michigan. So I didn't really fully know what I was going to do with any of that, but I don't really think about the world in that way. Like, I'm not like, I got this degree so I can have this job. Like, I think education is a resource in and of itself. Like, that can be its own journey without it having to be like, what did you do with that degree? And I don't know, no more than the person who didn't get that degree. I don't know. Like, that's what I did with it. But I always know that I'm like, no matter what I'm going to do, like I said, I bring my activism into my daily life. So working in anybody's like 9 to 5 or like corporate area has never really worked out for me because I'm too sassy. I got too much to say. I don't believe in hierarchy. Like, just because your thing say boss does not mean you are superior to me. So I have like,
so
I'm not built for that world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do have 2 points I want to give. So Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of the rapper J. Cole, as some people may know, but also Fayetteville, military bases around there. So it brings a lot of black folks from across the nation to that space, because some of the bases there are some of the
Fort Bragg is the largest base in the world.
There we go.
Yeah.
And the toughest ones too. So, and when we say tough, meaning like American South, I mean, God bless for so many that deal with what it is, even just in, going through basic training. A lot of people pass, and it can get stressful. So the community there, it is like a close knit, definitely Bible Belt. There's
a very strong black revolutionary community in that Fayetteville area that's like very tight, very connected to one another. I think it's like waning now as some of the elders pass on and all that kind of stuff. But I grew up like feeling as if, even though Fort Bragg is one of the largest, military spaces that exist, feeling very like rooted to
the
community there.
And I just wanted to frame that also so that people kind of get that scope and that feel. It's like I'm a nerd about a lot of these interviews. So that's where like people be like, where you be knowing this stuff? It's like talking to people. So in that, as a kid, are you traveling like back and forth to Jamaica and North Carolina often?
Both, yeah. So we were up and down the highway to go see grandma, like go to family reunions. And our family reunions have always historically been held in the South on my dad's side. And then, we were, as long as my grandma was alive, we were always, and then my uncle, they've both passed on now, but.
Condolences.
Thank you. I went to middle school in Jamaica. I went to my first 2 years of high school in Jamaica. And then after I got my master's is when I moved back there for about 8 years.
So I do another classic in the archives of Detroit is Different. Kirk Mays tells the story of going to Jamaica, but I want to hear your story about what was going to Jamaica pre 9/11, because just period, like international travel, just airport, it was just different.
Very different.
And if you're not, you can't even explain it, but I want to hear some of your stories of going back, because some of the stories he told were just added, I think, a lot of color to what those trips would be.
Yeah. I mean, my mom started sending me down there, like as many Jamaican kids, like during the summer, you get sent down to go with Granny for the summer, and you're going to learn a completely different lifestyle. My grandma lived up on top of a mountain above Kingston, an area called Lawrence Tavern. So, I would be down there, like learning how to like cut chocolate, make banana chips, and climb trees and run through gullies, and it's like like, I don't know, you're just like, nature is always a part of whatever you're doing. And then going back for like middle school and high school, I think the greatest thing that having the connection to a place like Jamaica, right? Because it's the place, first of all, Jamaicans have a notorious reputation for being like kind of like war, like political and like firm and like revolutionary, and they willing to talk about politics.
As I've said on here before, if you go to a Jamaican restaurant and they're not, and they're very polite, the food probably is not going to taste good. But they seem like, I don't even know if I feel like giving this person money. Food going to be amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and you should come over. I'll cook you some Jamaican food anytime. But I think what it gave to me was protection against being in the United States. Because I didn't grow up with the same. So like we still have issues in Jamaica because it's still a colonial island that like is based on a lot of like colonial rules, right? And I've thought a lot in my life, like, what's the difference between having a system that is based in colonialism and still has hierarchy? Like, what makes us different from the United States? And I think that one degree of difference of just understanding that Black people are human even makes your oppression a little less oppressive, right? So, even though we have struggles in Jamaica, I grew up with Black doctors and Black teachers and Black lawyers and Black politicians, like everybody Black. So you don't have that same kind, like the same narrative that gets told in the United States, that like there's constantly going to be something to do as a Black person to prove your humanity, to prove you're not a savage no more, to prove all of that, because they're always changing the goalpost about what that takes in this place, because none of that like actually exists, right? Like they created the idea of race, and so like when you are playing in a game where somebody else created the rules, they can change them on you anytime, right? And so there's this constant struggle for identity among Black Americans, because like you can't actually win a game that's rigged against you. And so that like being in Jamaica and just knowing that like there wasn't actually something inherently bad about Blackness, right, that needed to be cleaned or civilized or educated away, is very, very helpful to like make you come here and be able to deal with this bullshit.
So as we go back to, I'm gonna recall the code switch. Ain't no code to switch to.
Yeah, exactly.
Go back to the beginning here.
Yeah, I mean, we learned stuff like going like having a history class in Jamaica. There's stuff they talk about that I was like, why? We don't know any of this. We didn't know that the Haitians helped fight the Civil War. Nobody ever told us that, Denmark VC was a Caribbean cat who started the slave revolts in South Carolina, right? We don't learn any of that here.
Yeah.
Right. All we learn is like this downtrodden story of Blackness, right? And then sometimes there's a shining symbol of like whatever, but it's always like whitewashed.
It's through a lens. It's one of the I remember a long debate I had with a couple of my OGs. It's kind of like the story of like a Jesse Owens or a Jackie Robinson, which I tip my hat and I applaud them for what they did, or Marian Anderson, but it's still like through the lens of like look at the resilience of Jackie Robinson getting spit on and having cleats dug into his feet. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't necessarily know if that's the lens.
Did you hear his
which,
interview the other day?
No.
He did it. I saw an interview with him, and somebody was like, "Oh, that must have been, you were so strong," and was, da da da. He was like, "No, it was terrible."
Yeah,
It was terrible. But I don't wish that on nobody else to have to be the character. It was like a very real. Like, he was like, nobody likes to get spit on and told you can't sleep in this place and have to depend on all these people for your survival. He was like, well, no, we're not telling no cute story about what I went through.
Yeah, and that's it's that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
All right, now if we frame it, it's like the way you frame it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, or Martin Luther King. It's like after dogs get attacked on you and everything like that, and you see the Ku Klux Klan blow up a church with 4 little girls, you finally say, you know what?
Right.
I think we do need to give them some rights. It's like, damn, you got to go through all of this where there's, like you say, just the humanity of it. It's just the lens of the perspective of that story is just something that.
Oh, yeah, like Rosa Parks was just a sweet little old lady who wanted to sit down. No, she wasn't. She was a, like, badass activist. It was like, I'm going to do this until I get in trouble for it.
All right, so Jamaica for about, you said 8 or 10 years?
Yeah, so I moved back. I got my master's degree in anthropology from the University of Central Florida in 2003. And then
you move a little closer to Jamaica then.
Yeah, I got out of here. I needed some sunshine. So I went down there, and while I was there, I with my partner, we started an organic farm. So we were farming and like having like travelers from around the world like come. They would stay, work on our farm, like in exchange for like stay and food and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for a number of years.
All right, and wait, I got to put a pin in this too, because you highlight something else that's deep in my family too. I got a lot of Floridians in my family.
Yeah.
It's like you got America and you got Florida.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Florida. It's like Detroit is different.
Florida's different too.
Yeah. What was it like? What was that culture there? How did you get into it? And then what era are we talking Florida?
So I was in Florida a couple different times. So I moved there right after my bachelor's degree. I was there for a couple of years with a homegirl down in Miami. And then I moved back to Michigan and moved back to Florida to Orlando. And
so Miami. So Miami like mid 2000s. And then you go back a little bit like later
around like 08.
Okay,
7.
so Barack Obama era kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Like moved there.
Oh, I know that was very interesting during that election in Florida.
It was spicy. I actually had to kick somebody out of my house. He was in there like mad and talking about all this stuff. And I said, you know what? We've been dealing with Bush for all these years. I don't want to deal with it no more tonight.
I know that, yeah.
He's still my friend, but I was like, you got to go, homie. We in here enjoying ourselves. We sorry about you.
I can imagine the yes we cans around in Florida.
Yeah, it would have been like if you had a Trumper in your house in these elections just singing and dancing around you. You got to go. But
I can imagine.
No, yeah. Man. Florida, I've just watched it devolve, man. It was bad before, but there's just like such a like, oh man, there's so much will to be evil down there. So that's actually why I left. So I had a child with my partner in Jamaica, and then he passed away.
Condolences.
And so I just was like, I need a break from Jamaica. It was a little bit too much.
Heavy. And when you go to Jamaica and you're living there, in that, like now being older, connecting with family, how's your family kind of moving, navigating at the time? Where are you in still the Kingston area? What about?
No. So after my uncle retired officially from the government, he moved up into the hills above Ocho Rios into an area called near Manig, like kind of on the road between Kingston and Ocho Rios up in the mountains. So when I came down, I went into that area. So I was up in that region, like up in the mountains above Ochi. That's kind of like the north coast. And it's almost smack dab in the middle. So I was there. I have a lot of friends in Kingston. Jamaica's small. You can just like get back and forth pretty quickly to where you're going. But I really was kind of like, as much as off the grid as you can be, like, but still like doing whatever. I was just kind of up in the middle of nowhere farming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really
Like
in the
touching
agricultural,
grass.
really in the
Yeah.
agricultural world, even
Yeah.
from Florida to there,
Yeah.
and you're getting to the ground,
Yeah.
growing, connecting in,
Yeah.
like all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of think like, this kind of goes back to like, what did you do with that degree? I kind of think about my life as an exercise in prefiguration. Like I'm always doing things to like figure out like, what it would it look like to live this different kind of life we're talking about as that we need to live. So now I've ran a farm. I worked on a bunch of farms in Michigan. I lived in a co-op in New York. I ran this thing. So like when people tell me like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna start a farm, we all gonna live together. I got questions. Are you really ready? Are you really ready for the person who like wants to take 20-minute showers and you have to be the one? Are you ready for the person who don't want to get up at 5 a.m. to go like pick pests off the thing? Are you ready for like the person who, like there's all of these like dynamics that you have to learn about living communally and like really living off the land and like changing your mindset. And I think not a lot of people interact with those things. It's one of the reasons that I think the like urban farming movement in Detroit is so important, right? Because it really highlights, to me, it's important to have done those things once you understand how important food sovereignty is to liberation, to security, to safety, to community, like building, right? Figuring out how to do that hard work of actually being in community with people, I think it's something everybody should dabble in.
And I think one of the tough things is in America that makes it even more difficult is one of the rooted concepts that we've all take on is just the concept of individualism. I mean, actually, they had like that rugged individualism. So like rugged individual means basically it's like, if I got to take from you or to help me get better, I'm ready to do it. So like these trade-offs that many people make and coming under this whole guise of like what's believed to in community, definitely in more agrarian cultures, obviously like that lines up a whole lot more. But here, so much even in, when things get more progressive and more progressive and more progressive and more progressive and more progressive, it gets to the point where it's like, well, you can get so evolved past where community is that y'all not even lined up. So, that's just.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's like, I love it. I love farming. I love like making things grow. I love being away. I love being like working in concert with other people to like make things happen. And I know it's hard work too.
Yeah, definitely. And closer to obviously like the cycles of nature, sunlight, following the patterns of like eating what's in season and so many other things. Like we say, you know what I'm saying? It technically I often say, for me to be able to get pineapples year round in America, I know it's nations that are going through God knows what type of oppression of what's happening.
People don't even know it takes a pineapple like 2 years to grow.
See?
It's an intense little crop, She needs a lot of care and a lot of time. And like people don't know. They're like, like I'm gonna throw away half of it as I
hilarious.
Cut this thing that took so much to grow.
See, there you go. All right. So coming back to America, when do you come back?
I moved back to the States in 2017 or so.
Okay.
After my partner passed. I had to do some stuff. We went to Orlando and I was like, oh man, I can't be here anymore.
Yeah.
It was so racist at that point. It was like Trump had infected everybody's brain and the gloves were off. And I would take my daughter to the park. And I remember one of the first full sentences she ever said was, Mommy, it was really hard to make friends at the park. I was like, oh, we can't do this down here with these racist fools. And I started making my plans. I was like, I'm going to go home because I have a whole bunch of homegirls here who have kids around her age. I know Michigan. And my tagline for Michigan is always Michigan where the racists have black grandbabies. so even if we got like racist. And I'd say we moved back. And the first time I took her to the park It was his dad there with his daughter. We struck up a conversation. The kids were having fun. I ended up inviting him and his wife to my daughter's birthday party. Like, it was such a different experience. And I was like, this is why I left that.
Okay, now I do gotta ask the number one thing that a lot of people you were visiting and everything. How did you adjust to the cold from Jamaica and Florida back here?
Well, I was born in Grand Rapids. I grew up in Michigan,
So it was cool.
I was born, like, I don't wear winter coats. Like, people always think I'm wild. Like, I'm very, like, I actually love the cold.
Okay.
I just don't love the, like, shoveling and the scraping and the, like, ice, and you're twirling around on the highway now. So I don't like all that, like the extra scary stuff that comes with the cold. But, like, I think Michigan's beautiful all seasons.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so it was cool. And so now moving back, what was the thought process? Definitely in this journey of lifelong learning, as you say, the experiment of trying different things, testing different things, learning different things. Where you at upon coming back to Michigan?
So I wanted to get a PhD, and I had hemmed and hawed on it for years. Like, so I got my master's in 2003, and then, like, because academia is so brutal, and anthropology especially can be very, very brutal. It's a, like, heavily white field of academia, and it's, like, one of the progenitors of the ideas of race, right? So it's had a stake in creating a lot of, like, problematic ideologies about humanity. But it also is one of the fields that's, I think, one of the most like, reflexive. So there's constantly, like, crises of identity in the field of anthropology, and it's checking into itself. And I think that, like, that's a very important thing. And so, it took me a while to decide to go back, but I was like, if I do go back, the only place I want to be at is Wayne State. Like, I like what their department is up to. I like the kind of work that comes out of Wayne. So I only applied to one program. I was like, if I don't get into Wayne, I'm not going to get a PhD. And so I applied, and I was accepted because I wanted to do more work on like, movement sustainability, like what keeps grassroots movements going, what breaks them down, what kind of, so and they were receptive to that as my mission for my, like, studies. And yeah, so it kind of had stemmed off the heels of falling in with this group in Jamaica who I'd met right after my partner died, and I was feeling really low or whatever. And this, like, this ragtag group of Rastas and, like, kids from England, kids from the States, like, came through our town, and they were on a walk around the entire island of Jamaica to raise awareness about plastic pollution, single-use, like, plastic pollution, and, like, conservation. And they came through, and they, like, invited me. They said, we've been walking the island for, like, a month and a half now. Come join us. They were like, we only got, like, 3 days left, like, whatever. And up until that point, because this is, like, right after my partner had died, I'd been kind of avoiding the world. I wasn't doing any of the stuff I usually do. I wasn't engaging with my, like, activist nature. And I just pondered on it, and the next day I said, you know what, I'm gonna go. So I got my daughter's grandma to take my kid, and I went. And when I showed up, they were like, oh my God, we've been walking for 6 weeks and invited everybody. You're the first person who walked with us. So I did the, like, final, I think it was something like 13 miles with them, like, walked the final. And it was a really dope experience because they were going around the island, cleaning up beaches at the time, like, cleaning up walkways, beachways, the water, and educating people as they walk. So they would stop in churches, schools, businesses, hotels, like, anybody who would give them space and time. Sometimes they were doing, what are they called when you do, like, the pop-up, like, kind of secret shows that nobody would know that they were there. And then and as they were going, they were documenting. They were, like, getting accurate statistics and, like, doing all this. And then they submitted at the end a policy recommendation to the government, and it resulted in Jamaica banning single-use plastics.
Wow.
So, and that was like, oh, snap. Like, it drew me out of my, like, fog from, the grief. But
okay, and two things about that I want to touch on, really three. So anthropology, like, a little bit of that nerd in me from marketing. Most of my classes were in marketing, but marketing, sociology, sociology is a wing of anthropology and so many other things. So a little bit of questions about that. Hearing what they were doing, that's very anthropological in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But first, grief. It's a part of life that many of us see, face, and deal with, and live with. Like it is in that same journey, I think, that we all kind of travel through. You losing a partner, and definitely a parent for your daughter. Like, how did you manage that, in the sense of, like, if you could just share the words to someone that may be seeing that, and just your take on, like, moving forward from that, and what do you think it was that kind of helped you find peace,
Yeah.
or as you're finding peace moving forward?
I mean, that was rough. It was like, because especially because my dad had just died 3 months prior to his death.
Wow.
And my dad was my homie. So my dad dies in September, and then 3 months later on New Year's night, my partner dies. And I'll tell you what, like, because we don't really do that great as a society about dealing with grief and healing. And there's a lot more language now among younger Black kids that I love, and just younger in general. Like, younger generations in general are more open about depression and, like, their mental health and grief and all that. But, I'm, my mom is Jamaican in the sense that she is Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we don't really talk about those things, like, in the same way that a lot of Black families in general will, like, suppress stories of, like, depression or mental health. And so it really took, me finding it was a struggle. Like, for a while, it was a struggle. I lost my way for a little while. I, like, lost my mind some days, especially because I was a new mother, right? And, like, I think what really helped, at a certain point first was just getting grief counseling. And eventually she's a wonderful grief counselor here in Detroit. Her name is Julie Weatherhead. She does a lot of work with a lot of the, like, kind of like radical collectives who do grief counseling. And she really helped me through that. But also, I process the world, like, through, like, research and gathering information. I'm a photographer, and I do, like, have done videography work. So I process visually and, like through tactile things too. So I ended up making a documentary about it. And that really helped, like, externalizing the story, like, creating a narrative for the story, and then creating somewhere it can live. So that documentary is out there, a little, like, 20-minute documentary I made about, like, what it is, and, like, interviewed Julie as a therapist. I interviewed some of my homies in Jamaica who knew my partner and knew us together. And we just kind of talk about grief, like, their own struggles with it. Because, like I said, societally and socially, especially because in Jamaica, we're so close to death all the time. There's always somebody dying, whether it be from some kind of, like physical ailment, or if it's from violence or something. You just get very used to death. And I think that's a common experience for Black people in general. But yeah, so just talking about it, being able to talk about it, like, getting over the stigma of it, and then tapping into some of these resources. Like, I really learned, like, it's okay for you to be sad. So now when I encounter people who are going through grief, because often people want to say, like, stay strong, be strong. You're like, I don't want to be strong. Like, I want you to help carry me right now. Right. And I think we often think that, like, that message of, like, oh, you're so strong is what people need to hear. But it often feels like a rejection of the need for you to care for them. Like, you're strong enough that I don't have to worry about you. And so I learned that lesson through that. And I think so I really, really, like, love all of the healing stuff that's happening around the city. Right. I go to Adrienne Ayers regularly for her Reiki. Like, she helps release things. I think it's so important. And it's, people are like, ooh, that sounds weird or scary or what is it and what they're doing. And it's like just being loving, like just having somebody be loving and like honor that like you need a moment and you need a moment. Like, I really started like not rejecting the idea of self-care, but I think that we need to start embracing the model of like community care a little bit more because sometimes you're like so lost in the sauce, you don't even know what you need to do for yourself to care for yourself. So, yeah, that's been very helpful. Like,
Thank you for sharing. And Julie is one of my homies too. So shout out to Julie in that work that she does. Cause you're right. And everything you gave is so like spot on for a person that's looking at that. Cause I mean, it's one of those things that, my mom passed in 2017, but this was the year where it felt more like that. And it's certain things that happen where a person may have passed years ago, you know what I'm saying? And because those connections and those moments when that presence is there, so like knowing that, as you say, that time of sadness and reflection and then growth and we always say like be strong, especially I think the whole narrative of like this strong Black woman, which is it's like a two-sided coin because like on one hand, Black women are strong as hell, but then on the other hand, it's also like if you're looked at like that, then it's like nobody's ever going to be like, you good? You know what I'm saying? It's like
let me do this for you without even,
So that definitely plays. And then like I say, in just this whole world of walking with them and seeing that study, a little bit anthropological, and so many things in your life that you've just shared, even in this interview and other things I've known, but just from this interview alone, you've kind of walked in different paths and had like that mind of like recognizing how people connect to different things because it's so much about the study of how people connect. I want to say what Jane Goodall like passed like this earlier this week. So like that's one of the people that is always going to be looked at for like I think the movie Gorillas in the Mist. But if you ever read more of the work beyond that, it's a lot more into that even grows from that. And like you say, an anthropologist will like continue to carry on the work and almost like deconstruct sometimes their original works.
Yeah.
So
but also just I want to make a like note because you brought up Gorillas in the Mist. Like I do not support the work of Diane Fossey.
No,
she was a terrorist.
No, I don't.
She was terrorizing up Black people down there.
I don't. I mean, but that's back to like
we love the gorillas, but we do not love what she was doing to people.
I say, it's like I say, as
shout out to Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey was a problem.
Like I say, it's like you build it up and you destroy it. But like a lot of this stuff, like I mean, when I had to read Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel, and I had to like
problematic.
Yeah, very much like. But it's thought processes, but it also is like really a lot of the basis for a lot of things in race, a lot of things of
that's why you got to be so careful.
What's it like? Plato's Republic. A lot of these like arguments spoke like this is what makes sense and this is why it makes sense and this is how people function. And then if you really kind of don't have the understanding of it, you're never really gonna make those connections. So hence. It's something connecting in that. Hence, that's why I wanted to ask, as you were choosing that, like, did you start coming to that thought process of like, if I get a PhD, I'm thinking archaeology and like, not archaeology, but like anthropology and like this study, like when do you start hitting that along the way? Like, is it kind of in the back of your mind?
No, I had never thought about anthropology at all. I swore I got my degree in political science. I was going to go be a lawyer. And everybody think I'm crazy because I still might after I get this PhD. But I didn't know anything about I'd taken one course in anthropology in college, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But it just was not on my radar. And then after I got older and was like, okay, maybe I want to go back to school, I was reading work by a cat who at the time was doing work on like hip hop culture. And I was like, you can study hip hop. And it was Mark Lamont Hill.
Okay.
And I read all his work and I was like, what field is he in doing all this work?
Hilarious. It's like, I could write about Nas.
Yeah, like
write
there's a
about Queen
field where
Latifah?
I can like do all of this, and his work really resonated with me. And like, shout out to Mark Lamont Hill, because he has been holding it down for like academics who get like brutalized by the system and still stayed true to himself, especially with all the Palestine solidarity stuff. But so yeah, I was like, oh, he's in anthropology. And so I was in Orlando at the time, and I went over to Central Florida and met with the department, and I was like, this is really cool. And and that's how I landed on anthro.
Okay, so that connection. All right, so over to Wayne State, and then figuring out what you would study. So less Wayne State, but when did you come to like the movement and like wanting to look into these different movements? When did that connect to you?
Well, I mean, it's like I said, like I always say, it's like not a job, it's a lifestyle. Like anybody who knows me knows that like I'm very serious about my politics. That I don't care where we're at, what party it is, we will get into it right now. I'll ruin this party right now for everybody. Like
you are definitely the person that you will get into a deep discussion.
And I love that. It's just in my nature. I can't be any other way. So when I came to Detroit, I was working at first for like, I was waiting to find out if I got into Wayne, and started working for a progressive political organization. And because I'm an anthropologist, I just started making my role in that organization how I could do it and still feel okay, right? Because I'm a whole like radical, you know, who doesn't necessarily believe in like the two-party system. I don't believe in the way like our nation state is formed as something that is going to ever lead us to any kind of liberation. But I still am also a person who was like, you got to vote for harm reduction. So as I was doing that work for a democratic progressive organization, I also knew that I needed to be rooted in actual like Black radical spaces, in grassroots spaces, in community spaces, to be able to feel good about the work that I was doing. And so I just started, and for me, that just means I show up when people need it. I don't care what you need. Like if you're like, hey, oh, you showed up. Can you man the table? Can you put out the napkins? Can you hand out these flyers? Can you go? Like I'm like fine to do whatever it is that anybody needs in a space to like help their mission. And so I just started kind of like growing, because I already, like I said, I have friends in this area who do that work too. So like tapping in with them back now that I'm back after 8 years away from, or actually a little longer than that because of the Florida piece, but just like tapping in and figuring out where my home is, and trying on as many different things as possible to see like what's my lane in this city.
Okay.
Right. Like where do I fit into the story of like Detroit and activism and all of that.
And that leads you to how a lot of people know you.
Yeah.
Riverwise, how we met. Riverwise and writing. So Riverwise is a publication, a community-based publication that really the origins of it, and I'm speaking from the origins how I know it, but you probably may be able to clear it off a little bit more. But shout out to Shay. Love Shay. Let's see. So like Shay, Mama Neb, and some of the other people, Eric, shout out to Eric, that were big influences on what the Michigan Citizen newspaper was. Said like, okay, it's a voice that's needed in community that needs to be respected in journalism and then to take shape. And this is kind of the inception of where Riverwise picks up. Unfortunately, but we're applauding so much of the health now of him. Eric Campbell took a lot of the lead in the beginning. And Eric Campbell had a stroke, and it took in like a different direction. But even from the beginning, Riverwise felt always a lot more artistic. This is no offense. I worked at the Michigan Citizen than even the Citizen was. It always felt more like activists had as much of a space there as journalists and artists. So like it felt, and it still carries on to me like it has that same balance, whereas definitely the Citizen and most like newspaper press is like, journalists, maybe an editorial from somebody else, and a journalist will cover what the art is. A journalist may cover where this activist is coming from. An activist really did have a voice with the citizen, but the artistry really plays a part in Riverwise. And that's kind of where we connect, because you knew so many of these beautiful artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
And every cover of the Riverwise is not just a political statement, but it's artistic expression that's like beautiful, thought-provoking, deep, like, you know, like the covers of Riverwise itself could be like an art collection.
Yeah.
You know,
They really could.
and you were a big part of bringing a lot of that together as Constance, my interview with Constance. So I'm giving all of this preface of Riverwise. Talk about coming to Riverwise, where you're at with Riverwise now, and what does it mean to you?
Okay. So I met Eric. Actually, I was leaving the Detroit People's Platform. I had just had a meeting with Renard.
Okay.
We were talking about transit justice.
All right.
And I see Eric fumbling around with all these magazines. We're getting on an elevator, and I was like, what you got? And
Hilarious.
we just chopped it up in the thing. We're like, okay, whatever. And he invited me to a collective meeting, and it was at Nandi's.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been in like 2018 or something. And I remember walking into Nandi's, and it was all these people. I was like, all these people showed up to
Hilarious.
like together. I was like, this is amazing. Cause like, it's like, I've always been such a nerd because I like, it's like, but like just to have this community around me who saw the value of like a publication. Like there's nothing like Riverwise.
No.
There is, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's all these homies in here. It was like a kid in a candy store. I loved it, and I was hooked. And so I just started volunteering to be on the editorial collective, or just join the editorial collective, which is free and open and available to anybody to do if they want to like learn how to run a magazine and do all that. And so I did that for a couple years, and it really helped me get a feel as I was entering into Detroit, right? I'd never lived in Detroit. I'd always like hung out here, traveling here younger. But it really helped me like get a feel for the city, to meet different people, to like see what people are up to learn what kind of activism and organizing is going on in the city, to like I have lifelong friends now from all of the connections like I've been like able to make through Riverwise. And then, also just I've been very lucky to have friends who do dope shit, like Constance, like her art is now hanging in the DIA in the Anishinaabe exhibit, right? Like my best friend who are rappers, like running Talking Dolls and like doing really amazing things to cultivate like young Black art in the city, right? And so I've just been lucky also to have those connections, but also, and people always laugh because like I'm considered like a pollinator, right? I'm really good at meeting somebody and being like, oh, you need to know this person.
Yep.
And like just because it's a blend, like I've grown up like art and music, and like to me all of the like
it
culture,
all connects,
like goes hand in hand with
activism.
It has to, because that's why you be so bored at those like at like the rallies. They be like dry ass rallies, and they be like, "Hey ho, sing so," and you're like, I don't want to do this for more than 3 minutes. But if you go and like somebody got the band going, and the artists are out and people are dressed up, that's when it feels alive. When your artists are involved in your movie, they have to be. That's why the dictators kill all the artists first, because they know that like I could write a 200-page novel. I don't know how many people are going to read it. But my friends who are musicians or painters or any of that could create something and you get it.
Yeah.
So there's no way that we could have something like a Riverwise that says that it's about community. It says it's about people's stories. That says that it's about creating a space and a voice that gets like twisted and like misshapen in the regular mainstream narrative and in the press. Without there also being, it has to be visually beautiful. It has to tell stories in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, and that's the poetry that's in it too. Like it's very. That's what makes it so unique to me. Like the artistry, as I say, and the activism and the purpose all kind of connected. But you say you've always seen these connections.
Yeah.
all the time. Now,
Most of our fundamental like revolutionaries understood the importance of visual like artistry and poetics and all of that in calling out and talking to people, building like what they need. I mean, I think, for as problematic as he was, Maulana Karenga, I think, was one of the most genius people.
Mhm.
He built an entire culture
Mhm.
that didn't exist before, that resonated with people. And to be able to do that, you have to have a very deep understanding of the kind of art that is going to connect to people, the kind of poetry, the kind of rhythm of language that it's genius, actually. The
Mhm.
creation of Kwanzaa and all of that to me is one of the most genius things that's happened in a place.
Mhm.
And it's because of that understanding that you can't actually change minds if you do it devoid of culture.
Hmm.
You need something to connect to, something that resonates, something that represents you. You have to.
And in that, now I guess I have to add this, standing in that space as you're doing all of your studies connected to this, what you're writing about movement. How are you finding some of the people in movement connecting culturally to what they're doing?
So my study, I'm looking at the connection between grassroots organizing and spirituality.
Mm.
And not religion, right? So we talk about religion and people's reaction to it.
Mhm.
But I'm talking more about the kinds of things that people do that they don't necessarily understand that is putting them in conversation with a culture that they're a part of.
Hmm.
And what's been really interesting is activists from all different kind of realms, right? I've talked to white activists, indigenous activists, Black activists, and they all, first of all, center their notion of spirituality and connectedness, just connection, and also nature,
Hmm.
right? And I don't necessarily probably couldn't just necessarily ask somebody what do you think spirituality is? And they would say nature and connect. They don't say that.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's what I'm just trying to figure out. What is this common thing that's bringing us together and that's making us reference things that are typically adjacent to religious kinds of practices, but that we're not acknowledging and that we don't we don't talk about transparently. We just do it.
Mhm.
Right. We invoke ancestors and we pour libations and we call water sacred and we talk to plants and we do all of these things that are very ritualistic and but we don't have a common language about it. And I think that that's something that we're lacking in our organizing spaces.
That's interesting. And in that, I often uplift for so many people, and this is no knock to a lot of my people there, but even a lot of what the Black church represents. So many people there, when you start, getting all nerdy and saying the Council of Constantine and it's they're not gonna know a lot of that, but what they will hold on to, it's the song, it's the ritual, it's the finding the space, it's the community dynamic about it. Even to the point where Lord knows I'm not the most Bible thumping person ever, but if you drop me for whatever reason in the middle of Nebraska or whatever, I'm going to look to find some of that Black community through probably the Black church, So it's and really from all these Detroit is different interviews, it's so unique, even from when I get the older stories, it's they always would come up, find that church home, and from that church home find so much other forms of community. And this isn't just Black, I mean, even through more, white. It's so interesting in America when you talk about race, but Irish or Polish or if you're off-white. I know that's hilarious, but if you're not, if
in
you're not
Jamaica
German,
we call it deputy white.
Yeah, if you're not German, English, or French, you're gonna find probably through whatever parish connected to the church there where things connect.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes through that institution to find community, but in that community also so much of the rituals, and clearly one of the key rituals is food too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm actually teaching food and culture at Wayne right now.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's but that's why, like, to me, like this, I really try and impress upon my students how important food movements are and understanding your relationship to food and all of that. It's why they like are starving people in Gaza. It's why people are being starved in multiple
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah. I mean, you
areas
could say
of
in America.
the continent of Africa right now. Yeah, but also why people are like why we continually have to have a conversation about Detroit being a food desert. Which
But-
I also have some spicy takes on, but
I do have just even in that take, like so much of and these are from Lord knows, I know that so many others like Yusef even himself would say, but just from a lot of the people I knew in Chicago, family in Cincinnati, just in places where my family was connected to the Panther communities. It was really the gateway of the food program that ingratiated them in community. Like, obviously, like, a lot of folks look, cool, leather jackets, shotguns, like that's,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
but it was the food program and the functionality of that made a lot of communities say,
Mm-hmm.
that's the group we're supporting.
Yeah.
So like even that as the vehicle connecting, especially the children getting breakfast, which it's like, you think about like that was like the late 60s and then we still having problems with that shit right now.
Yeah, we still think it's like a political take to feed hungry children.
Feed children breakfast. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? 60 years
really
later,
something.
it is still
yeah.
Still radical. All right.
That's the absurdity. Like I often tell my students, look for what's absurd. And when you're looking at something that's absurd, it's when you found a truth. Right? So if something is like, why do we even have to be like talking about hungry children need food? And then you start to dig at that truth that like if you keep people hungry, you can keep them distracted. You can make them criminals because they're going to go out. People are going to get food.
Yeah.
Right? So if you prevent them from having it in a certain way, they're going to go out and get it another way, and then you can lock them up.
Yeah.
So
it becomes social engineering, which are other forms of, like we say, anthropology, it can go in different designs, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like, I've uplifted this so much before, like with, what's that? Like during COVID, and it's like, they're giving away so much unemployment. Nobody wants to work and everything. And the stimulus, it's like, well, because nobody probably wanted that job in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
nobody wants these jobs now. Nobody
so
wants
it's like
them
if you have to be more understanding, if you kind of have to engage with whoever you're working with. More from like a level playing field instead of like, you got to get a check, so you got to do what I say. Like it levels so much of the communication. It levels so much of the community itself to connect.
Yeah.
So with that, this has been fun, but I got to ask you classic Detroit is different questions now.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
I had a my very first car was a 1989 Acura Integra.
Okay.
That we bought secondhand, clearly from some guy in Ipsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did it last?
Ooh, she was around for maybe about a couple of years, like 3-4 years.
There we go. Yeah. Where was the first place you went when you got it?
Oh God, where was the first place I went when I got it? I don't know how much I can say on this podcast. I probably went to go get a bag.
Hilarious. The statute of limitations is up. So So there we go.
Probably just drove around.
It's so funny. I remember you probably knew this guy because he was pretty famous, according to him. I think he was probably pretty famous. I was in recording school with this guy. Weird. He was like Egyptian or something, but he played like weird instruments and stuff, Ann Arbor and everything. And he would always say like, yeah, man, I was like the most famous weed guy. That that time that Mateen Cleaves and Robert Traylor got into the car accident, that was my weed. It's like, it's so funny. Like knowing weed
Ann Arbor's
dealers,
small, so probably.
Knowing, you know what I'm saying? Like weed dealers love to tell you the celebrity stories.
They do. They probably got a whole little secret network of knowledge about everybody out
and
there.
in the 90s, it was different. It was not the dispensary era that it is now. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I was not getting it from an Egyptian dude. I don't want to put everybody on blast because.
There we go. All right. So, in this one, even though you're still close to the crib, but I'm gonna ask you two questions. So I'm gonna ask you the Detroit one from a non-Detroiter, but now I'm gonna ask the Ipsy Ann Arbor one.
Okay.
So usually I ask if you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be? But now I'm gonna ask if you could rename Michigan Avenue after somebody from this Michigan footprint, wherever southeast. Who would you name it after?
Wow, that's a big question. You're gonna just hit me with it right now? Dang. Okay, let's think. Who do I? Michigan Avenue. We got to rename it with the name of a Michigander. Actually, okay. So I have just finished writing a review for Fifth Estate of the book Hurt Baby Hurt about William Walter Scott, who kicked off the rebellions in '67. And maybe he needed a name.
There we go. That would, boy, it would. You think you've seen some Bad Bunny protesting?
Yeah.
So now the non-Detroiter Detroit question, which is also another thing. This is another one of those I always uplift, like a anthropology type thing of like how culture's different. Because my thought process is if aliens come here, we kicking it in, we having fun with them. But it's other cultures that always see aliens coming here as like you want to extract, which says a whole lot more about their intention of going anywhere. Y'all pick it up. But alien comes, spaceship, drops off right in front of your crib. E.T. comes out and like, yo, we got to go to the most Detroit place we can go. Where you taking E.T.?
Most Detroit place that you can go. I will go to Belle Isle.
That is the most, that is the number one location that E.T.
Is that what everybody says?
That is the number one.
Belle Isle was just such a big part of my growing up. Like, it was a huge part. When I say we used to, like, let me tell you, we would come, we would be in a whole car full of girls.
Hilarious.
Whose mommies and daddies did not know we was on our way to Detroit.
Yes.
And we were gonna definitely pass
end up at Belle Isle.
Right? We was going to the Riverwise, we was doing all that, but we are going to cruise through Belle Isle. And I'm often like, we should just like shut it down again one night, bring back, like have
Belle
all
Isle.
the old cats like be able to come through and do it. Was so much fun.
And yes, and
It's such a part of,
you in a spaceship with E.T., I'm sure you would shut the strip down.
Yeah, let's go. I still love it. We go hang out at the beach all the time at Belle Isle. It's just a lovely, lovely place. And
it's a gem.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khary.
All right.
I appreciate you.
Peace.
Detroit is different. Yeah, Detroit is different. Words of the streets, stories in life we lead. Detroit is different. Detroit is different.